Interviews and collaborations are a great way to grow your audience online. By bringing in experts to talk on topics that are relevant to your domain, you can not only add huge value to your audience, but both you and the expert can start to cross-pollinate and grow each other's audiences, which means it's a win-win situation. Now, two guys on YouTube that have absolutely nailed this and really got it down to a fine art. I'm talking about Cannell and Benji Travis from Video Influencers. I was first introduced to their channel, Video Influencers, a little while back, and I was amazed not only by the guests that they've managed to get in, but also their style of interviewing and the awesome insights that they've been able to pack into their short videos. If you haven't come across their channel yet, it's an awesome resource for anyone looking to grow their audience online with video. They have a long list of interviews with guests like Lewis Howes, Gary Vaynerchuk, Casey Neistat. So I thought, what better way to cover the topic of interviews than to get the man himself, Cannell, in to tell us how he does it. So you've been doing this for quite a while now. Can you start by telling us about the overall goals for Video Influencers?
Yeah, I mean, our overall goal of Video Influencers is literally this motivation to help people tap into the power of video. We believe that video is freedom. Truly, that video changes lives, that it's the #1 way to spread your message on the planet right now. Statistics are saying that video is the preferred form of content. And so, of course, blogs are awesome, books are never going to go away, all these types of things, but people are desiring video. Snapchat, Periscope, Facebook Live, YouTube, all these different platforms is shifting towards video. And so we're realizing that there's a real need, whether it's a business owner, it's a personal brand, or even just a stay-at-home mom that wants to create side income, a part-time income, and maybe a full-time income around their passion, that video is the vehicle to do that. Benji and I collectively have over 20 years of experience in using video in the real estate space, as YouTubers, in the faith community, with personal brands, with authors, doing video production. And so we got together and we're like, man, we have all this collective experience. We have a lot of friends in this space. We're so immersed in this space. And this is something that people are trying to figure out. They're trying to figure out how to master video and use it to effectively extend the reach of what they're doing. And so we said, man, we got to help people in this space. It's our passion. And we have a little bit of expertise. Plus, we can bring people, the influencers from across all different disciplines. Let's put something together that will literally help people go further, faster with video and get real results.
Perfect. How big a part did interviews play in the growth of Video Influencers?
For us, interviews have been about 50% of the growth. 50% has been from creating videos that are being found in search. We call those ranked videos. And then the other half is definitely collaborations, interviews, because whenever you interview somebody, there's the chance that they might tweet it, retweet it, their credibility, their authority gets the word out. And so that's definitely been a key building block of Video Influencers.
So I guess you just touched on that, but interviews in general for online growth and YouTube growth, why do you think they're so powerful?
Well, I think for a few reasons. I think #1, that it makes it possible to add value to an audience and to build a brand beyond your current level of expertise. If you start a YouTube channel or anything by yourself and it's up to you to be the expert and to create all the content, then you either need a lot of experience, a lot of time. It's going to be very hard. But if you tap into the expertise of others, you can get their point of view. It's pretty amazing to think that you could get somebody with 10 or 20 years experience to distill all that information and value down just by doing an interview. I think the other thing is that niche is so important, or niche, right? Is so important when it comes to a channel, a brand, a business. And for us, it's all about online video. So that's the common denominator. That's the umbrella where all of our different influencers come from. But then you've got people that are entrepreneurs using online video for business. You've got YouTubers. You've got personal brands, authors, speakers. And what I found too is that as you interview people that are maybe in the same kind of space, but yet different, you get all these unique distinctions that can help you really crush it in your specific niche. So just a lot of things that are valuable. I think the last thing too is that possibly the greatest self-help book, personal development book, maybe in history. Some people think it's, Think and Grow Rich. It's really well known, spread around the world, written by Napoleon Hill. And what's interesting is that book was a book based on interviews. Andrew Carnegie commissioned Napoleon Hill to go interview the greats as it came to producing wealth in that case, and it created this great book. And so there's a lot of people that have followed that interview model since then, and you end up with a very powerful end product that adds value to your audience.
Yep, that's awesome. And you guys are absolutely killing it over at Video Influencers. Now, can you just take us through, because you guys have had some amazing people that you've interviewed on your channel. Can you just take us through sort of very briefly, how did you get their attention? How, was it a cold contact, all the way through to locking in a date and time? What's your approach there?
That's a really great question, and I have a bunch of different answers for you. I think one of the things that's really important, though, is that I think it starts with solid branding. I think that the first thing that anybody would want to do if they were going to follow, our footsteps in their own niche would be to have a home base that would be, presentable and professional to the influencers that you're going to be reaching out to. So even when we were just starting out, we made sure that a few things were in place, that we had a website that was clear, that was clean, that the YouTube channel, all the different branding was set up nice. And that's really important. If you reach out to somebody and when they just click to give that first impression, you only have one chance to make a first impression. When they click through on your YouTube channel or your website and it's not clear what it is, it's not professional, it's not clean, then you might lose them right there. And so that's kind of like, I believe, the foundation, and then we would build upon that. I think the second thing is having your first credibility building interview. And sometimes you kind of just got to go out there and just keep, reaching out to people until you get that one. And then there's something about having, if you could put it front and center, previous people we've interviewed, if it's somebody in your space that has authority and has influence, then others can make a snap judgment upon that. So we had some pretty, miraculous things happen. I was living in California at the time, and I sent a tweet to Chalene Johnson, who's probably one of the greatest or very well known in the fitness space. She's one of the leading beach body, which in America, is huge in the fitness community. She's done all these programs and all these different things, and huge as an internet marketing and social media specialist and so on and so forth. And honestly, no relation, no connection. I sent her a tweet, and her team did an auto reply that just said, yeah, you can fill out this form. And that was probably not going to make it to her. But she happened to be on that day, and she said, okay, yeah, hey, here's my personal email. She direct messaged me, followed me back, and said, let's come shoot the interview at my house. And so we were like, this is crazy, right? And it became one of those first interviews. Now, one of those things that she did, because I asked her later. So once we connected, and then we ended up doing other projects, and I was helping. It led to all kinds of other stuff. But I think that solid branding is when it went back. She looked at who I was, my Twitter bio. She looked at what we were doing. She loved the professionalism. And it was also just a good timing. She said, and she's very intelligent when it comes to social media, she goes, I would rather, at this point, we only had maybe a couple thousand subscribers, or maybe not even that. Like, it was brand new. It was one of our first interviews. She goes, I would rather reach, a couple thousand social media subscribers than go on television, like traditional television. And she gets those opportunities and she turns them down. So it was just the right timing. And then that interview led to, I assume it led to, because then it was like, oh, whoa, you've got Chalene Johnson on your channel. For instance, you mentioned Lewis Howes. I met him at an event, at Chalene's event that I was there doing some video work for. And so things just began to stack from there. And I would encourage people listening, you got to get that one. You got to do whatever you can to just get that one, keep trying. And then you can build from there. I think the third, you got to acknowledge that relationship plays a big part in this. Benji is a big YouTuber. He and his wife have a lot of influence. And so while some people don't know them, and for instance, like the Chalene, it was like two separate worlds, and even just different people that aren't even related to that world. A couple of those initial interviews definitely came from him. To be honest, Let me even take a step back. The first one was kind of a friend reach out from somebody, a big YouTuber named Nikki Philippi, who I'd met a couple years before when she came to Las Vegas, my hometown. She did a meetup and my wife and I went down and we built context and relationship that we didn't realize that we would say, hey, would you come on and do an interview a couple years later? So I think if you're always building to it, connecting at live events is definitely a tip. And I think another huge tip for listeners is that if you can get people, depending on what your space is, what your niche is, if you can get people during their book launches or their promotions, they might be turned off and closed down 11 months of the year. But if it's a month where they want to be doing stuff, they'll say yes to almost any interview. That's a huge power tip. And then the last thing is Twitter. Twitter is, I think a lot of people misunderstand what it is. Twitter is still the very best platform to reach out to anybody. I heard one person say that the way to think about Twitter is that Facebook is where all your friends from high school are. Twitter is all where you wish all of your friends from high school were. Like, you have access to celebrities, like you have access to those people. And it can just be a repetition thing that if you have the chance to tweet them, reach out to them, do it consistently once a week for a year if you have to go into a rhythm. But here's the thing. It also comes back to your branding on Twitter. So you've got that solid profile picture, clear bio, links back to your website. So that individual can make a snap judgment about what you're asking them, engaging them, liking their stuff, showing up on their stuff for a while, adding value to the influencer. That's so important. And then eventually when you reach out, they go, okay, I kind of recognize this person, and they go, sure, and they'll go for it. So those are a few different ways. I mean, it's a lot of different ways. And to be honest, there's actually a project I had called Think International that goes way back. It was in the faith space. And before even video influencers started, we clocked 4 years, couple hundred interviews on that channel. So that season definitely added to the ability to launch video influencers with clarity and with a lot of confidence to go out there knowing that we could get some pretty awesome interviews.
So it's not really, it's not a cold call. It's that you're really building a relationship with these people and really, building a relationship with them and their audience and offering some value, interacting in their comments areas and, sharing their tweets and sharing their videos. So it's not like a cold call at all. It's really sort of adding some value back to them and really sort of interacting with them.
Yeah, I mean, and I do think patience is so important. I've got a list on Google Docs of a couple hundred people that I would like to interview. And so if you are thinking about them that far in advance, it might be 2 years until some of them, we might cross paths at a live event. These are people that I just kind of want to be cultivating a relationship with. And over time, we just see more and more, maybe all of a sudden they're launching a book. All of a sudden they're coming to your town so you could go to their speaking at an event. You could pay and go there. Any way you could add value, get engaged with them and not be, in a rush. And I think that's definitely powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I really like the idea of approaching people while they're in the middle of a book launch or a launch in general, because as you said, like they're in the middle of promoting. They're going to want to be on as many channels or as many different platforms as they can be. So that's awesome. That's the perfect time to hit them up. I really like that. So I guess getting the guests is one thing, but interviewing is a whole different skill. So you've got a great way of extracting awesome information from your guests, and I'm assuming that a lot of this comes down to preparation. So can you just talk us through how you prepare? Do you do a heap of research? Do you send through a list of questions or topics? Do you send out a bit of a brief of the information that you want to cover? What does that sort of look like to you?
Yeah, well, it's not always perfect, and but I'll give you some of the things that we do. I think that the 5 Ps are so important, right? Proper preparation prevents poor performance, and preparation is everything. And so, and what I've noticed too is I take it really seriously. I believe it's a discipline, and a lot of times during the interviews, what I'll hear from the person is they're like, "Whoa, you did your research." Which tells me that a lot of people will go into these interviews with them just kind of spitballing, just freestyling, or they haven't gone deep. If you can even say, in 2005, you went through that one season in your life, you must have learned. And now they're like, whoa, like you've done your research. And there's nothing that really can replace that. I think, though, there's two options. I think having a solid framework, sometimes we go to a live event and we'll do a lot of interviews and we're not even really sure who or what. And so we just want sound questions related to their expertise and that will pull out good information from them. But when you can do it specifically, in this case, I'm going to watch their videos. If they have a book, I'll order the book. Like I order off Amazon just to kind of, even as a way to kind of pay it forward a little bit. What is $10 for, to not only get the insight, but to hold it up and to maybe promote them later. So I'll always try to invest in a little bit of their stuff and get some more context. Maybe I don't read the whole thing. I kind of skim through it. I'm able to pull some nuggets out of there. I watch their videos. Go through their social media, look at their products and programs, and just really try to figure out what they're doing. Then I also want to really figure out the audience. I think being a practitioner helps you really ask good questions that will help move the needle forward. One of the biggest distinctions that I learned, and I think early on, what we would do, and I see this happen all the time on YouTube, is we would like interview somebody at a conference back on our old project. And I'll see people ask questions. They're like, so what do you think about the event so far? They're shooting a question like that at an event. And by the time that hits YouTube, it's irrelevant for the audience. Nobody wants to know what the person thought about an event that's past that they weren't at, unless it's like a recap video about the event. That's a huge mistake that I make, and people make it all the time. It's like super general. So they're like, so what do you think, about this conference? So then what we switched to was I started realizing like even the conference itself was kind of irrelevant, the event that we were, interviewing and holding up the stick mic. But then we started to like base it on content. And I think you just kind of get better over time. So I would almost think of like the actionable search term, like what would be a great video? And so the question would maybe be like, if you're doing YouTube, your question is, how do I get more views on my YouTube videos? Or how do I start a YouTube channel? So if you can have questions that are really relevant for your audience, then it's just going to pull out actionable, tactical content from that individual. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's cool. And I guess then what actually happens is the keywords that you come up with actually become the keywords in your videos for YouTube search terms.
Man, you caught that. No, that is super powerful. So before I've even done the interview, I've usually thought of the title or titles that I want to post. That's a super powerful tip right there. Grab that one. And some people, they don't write out the questions. I write out all the questions. I'll usually have them on a Google Docs on my phone, be able to go through them. You notice we do the lightning round on video influencers. And I kind of generally have those questions in my head, but I'll have those as well. And so again, preparation is huge, and it really, it also builds, it takes a lot of fear out of it. It can build confidence when you know you're going into it prepared.
Okay, so you guys are pretty seasoned interviewers, but for anyone that's just starting out, it can be a total nerve-wracking experience. Do you have any pre-game rituals or any recommendations for anyone just starting out?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's helpful. Just simple things like if you're going to be on video, trying to like make sure that you didn't spill something on your shirt, and that you've got some water, just kind of those basic things. That your head's in the game. Morning of, if I've got a huge interview, I'll research everybody. And then when it comes on, I think something that's important for people to, if they're new to being on video itself, is that doubling your energy won't make you look crazy. That video that you want to up your energy by about 20 to 40% just to come across normal. It's on video. And so you get to steer the conversation like the interviewer has the steering wheel, and great interviewers are going to lead you someplace great. They're going to, depending on who the person is, their energy might play off your energy. So you want to bring vibrancy and life and that electricity to the interview and let them, go off that. You're the one that's going to lead it. So I'll definitely make sure that, just my mindset, my hydration, that as much as possible, I can be fully present and prepared for the interview.
Yeah, I totally agree with upping the energy. Like, I know that you say 10x your energy. Well, one of the things that we teach is to people to really ham it up, really over-exaggerate everything. If you're not on camera, then you're going to come across as looking flat. And it's hard when you're teaching people that, because they don't realize until they play back the video to see that without that extra over the top added energy, they actually look really flat in their videos. And that's hard for people to sort of comprehend and understand. And it feels weird. It's hard to do it, and it takes a fair bit of practice to be able to sort of just turn it up and have it look natural when you play it back.
100%.
Awesome. So we're getting to the pointy end of this now, but for people that are just starting out or they're looking to take their interviews to the next level, what would be your 3 key things that they absolutely need to be doing?
I think number 1, practice makes progress. Practice doesn't make perfection. I don't think anybody ever reaches perfection. We're always growing. But just practice and repetition is huge. I've heard it said, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. And for anybody watching, video influencers, I appreciate, what you were saying. You're like, we're doing a good job, or, things are coming across great. What people, I guess, don't see is that my first interview was 10 years ago, and it was terrible. And so I think sometimes people are like, they look at, someone's highlight reel and they compare it to their blooper reel, and it's discouraging. And they look at somebody who's already kind of in their prime of mastery and they've put in the time and they're just starting out. So you got to really give yourself grace and allow yourself to practice. My goal would be to get 100 interviews done as soon as possible. So now you're kind of getting to feel it flow of things. I mean, that might sound discouraging, but it's just like, look, you're going to get better over time. And so you want to clock as much as possible. It's something I think in a lot of spaces that all the greats and almost in art and different arenas were prolific. And by prolific, it means they just put out a large volume of content. And so the more you can do, you're going to learn more distinctions. You watch some of your old stuff. You're like, that didn't go very good. And just keep learning, just keep growing, but realize that you're adding value to your audience on the journey. Like that even nobody's looking for you to be perfect. So just do your best and then keep growing, keep making those distinctions as you go. I think number 2 is that you want to pull out actionable content from the person, not just general information. And so the more preparation you can have, and if you're considering what your audience wants, I mean, I think there's really an art to interviewing. And so, I would feel uncomfortable interviewing somebody about ballet. That's not my space. I would feel uncomfortable doing equestrian, interviews, even cooking or things like that. These are not my expertise, but because I am so deep in my niche, I can pull out the distinctions and the pain points and the emotions of the process and and the struggles that our audience has. And I think that pulls out quality. So I think if you're in alignment and you're congruent with your passion and the project that you're working on, I mean, sure, you could just do general interviews. But if you really want them to be great, you want to be pulling out that actionable content, which means what are the needs and the pain points and the questions of your audience and of your niche. Which, side note too, that's actually one cool thing about having an audience. You can always survey somebody and say, your audience, you throw it out on an email, Twitter, hey, this is who we have coming up. What are your guys' questions? That's a huge tip. And then, number 3, I think to keep growing and to study great interviewers and to watch other interviews and what was the good, the bad, and the ugly of what happened there. And there's a couple good books that I like. Ken Coleman is one of my favorite interviewers. He's on a podcast called Entree Leadership, which here in the States, Dave Ramsey's podcast. He wrote a book called One Question. And there's a book called Power Questions. I got the ebook on that. John Maxwell wrote a book called Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. And so over this process and of this journey, that practice has been important. Trying to really be immersed in the actual content in my space so I can pull out actionable stuff. And then number 3, continuing to learn and grow, reading, watching, studying along the way. I think those 3 keys will help people really grow their interview skills.
That's awesome, and thanks very much to Sean from Video Influencers for taking the time to talk to us. Now, if you haven't checked out Video Influencers, make sure you check him out. And Sean, maybe you just want to give us a quick rundown of what people can expect when they land on Video Influencers.
Yeah, absolutely. So on our channel, you've got number one, you've got tips and strategy videos about online videos. So every week we'll just share tips of anything in that space. It could be related to how to use your gear, how to get more views, how to be confident on camera. Just every week you'll get a tip and strategy. And then every week you'll get an interview with a different video influencer. And what's cool is for no matter what you're doing, you'll learn from entrepreneurs, like you said, like Gary Vaynerchuk, but you'll also learn from YouTubers like Casey Neistat, or you'll hear from YouTubers and vloggers like Shay Carl. And what I found is that when you extrapolate the principles from all those different people and apply them to what you're doing, it'll really 10x your own results when it comes to video.
Thanks again for your time. Everyone, make sure you check out Video Influencers, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much.
So that was Sean Cannell from Video Influencers. Make sure you check them out. Head over to their YouTube channel and their website. I'll put links in the description below. Give this video a thumbs up, a share, leave a comment. Make sure you head over to primalvideo.com/subscribe to subscribe to our weekly video updates. I'll see you soon.